Hello there, Ryan Graham with another stream. Picking up where we left off last time. So thinking back to what we did last time, we created a Xamarin mobile application for iOS and Android, and it's really just a shell at this point in time. We created a Azure function on my local machine, and we use it. We use a tool called ngrok, to basically do a reverse proxy out from the internet to my local machine, give it a public URL, so that way I could hit the function running on my local machine from my mobile phone without doing any kind of crazy host name redirection, stuff like that, because of localhost and my network and all that fun stuff. Just makes it easy. So what I thought we'd do today is pick up where we left off. If I switch over here to my desktop, kind of move stuff around a little bit. So we've got some tasks here. So this is kind of what I'm thinking for today. Step one is create an Azure function in Azure. So I have the code locally. What we want to do is create a place to host that in Azure and then publish it out. So that's step two, is to deploy the function. And then step three will be to modify the mobile application to call the function running in Azure instead of on my local machine. And then on top of that, we'll think about adding in Azure API Management in front of the function. So that way, the function isn't just sitting bare on the public internet. We'll front it with API Management, which will give us a lot of capabilities to maybe offload some functionality that would typically be part of the function. So for example, authentication. We'd want to be able to get a access token passed in via the header from the mobile app and do some sort of verification that the token's valid. It's from a valid issuer, it has a valid lifetime, etc. And then just offload all that in the API management before it sends the request back to the function. And then maybe depending on how much time we have left, we'll create a Azure B2C tenant and then hook up the B2C authorization and authentication into API management, and then try to get that rolled into the mobile app. I don't know if any of you have done identity work before, but it can get a little tricky getting everything hooked up. So this might turn into a rabbit hole. So we'll see where we get. Before we kind of dive in too far, I just want to jump over here. So in the last video, when we left off, I basically committed the code, pushed it out to GitHub. Now, when I did my initialize for my repo and committed, I was not in the root folder. And so it was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It didn't pick up my git ignore, and there's a bunch of stuff that was messed up. So I redid all that, and I also reorganized a few things, and I also renamed the repo. So I was thinking about the social media network that we're trying to build, and I came up with the name of OpenEthos. So I put the definitions of both of these down here. Trying to create a social media platform that is inclusive, doesn't spew hate and all that fun stuff. And then it's also developed out in the open. I thought this was kind of a valid name for it. So gave that the name, changed the repo name around. I also reworked some of the pathing for the repo, and nothing exciting. Just put projects in the location that they should have actually been in. So we've got our API project out here. It's in the API profile. And that's our Azure function that we created. And then I made sure that the mobile apps were in the mobile, so on and so forth. I also imported, I had that activity streams project that I had created. And it's modeled after, search for activity streams here, activity streams. It's modeled after this W3C spec, which does a really good job of modeling a lot of the different interactions that you would have in a social media platform type application. So everything from posting content to liking and sharing, blocking, all that fun stuff. It's all modeled out in here. Now, this uses the JSON LD format for the serialization. And in order to do that with the tools and libraries we have available in .NET, it's actually really painful. So what I ended up doing was kind of paring down the JSON LD side of things to make it really just plain old JSON. And so because of that, I had to deviate from this activity streams spec a little bit. And it also introduces some processing overhead. So we'll start out with what I have, and we might even start paring it back a little bit more if we have to start doing some really nasty things within our application, both on the mobile side as well as the server side. So we'll see. But anyway, I got that imported in. That's all out here. Take a look at it, and maybe it's useful for a project you're working on as well. And then we have our web folder out here, which doesn't have anything in there. And then finally the solution, which has all these projects pulled into it in Visual Studio. Docs is empty for now. We'll get that filled out. And then templates are empty for now as well, but I'm a huge fan of infrastructure as code. And so as we're going, we'll be building out ARM templates to deploy our resources within Azure. So that way, as we think about how do we get pipelines in place to deploy this thing up the stack, I'm not manually, having to go out and click through the portal or, run some scripts here and there to get resources deployed. We'll be able to just, take this template, which, so ARM stands for Azure Resource Manager. And basically what you do is it's like a goal state type template where you model out in a quasi JSON format, this is what I want my environment to look like. And then you pass that template off to Azure. It does a compare between what's already deployed and what you want to be deployed. And then it'll basically do a diff and then make all the updates that you want to make. So as we go, we'll build out templates in here, and we might even take a look at Project Bicep, which is a new project by the ARM team that is going to make authoring ARM templates much simpler. So if you have done any ARM template development in the past, the JSON can get pretty gnarly, and it gets really ugly, and it can make your head kind of spin. I have to find, let's see here. So this Project Bicep is basically here we go. It's a declarative language, a domain-specific language for doing ARM, and it'll remove a lot of the ugly heavy lifting that you had to do manually as you're building out ARM templates. So this will make everybody's lives much easier. The ARM team, as they're building this out, they're early phases of this. And so what I would do is I would encourage you to download it, play with it, and provide feedback. if you tried something out, it doesn't work exactly the way that you would expect, open an issue. If you have feature requests, open an issue. I know they're iterating on this very quickly, and they want to get it in the hands of as many people as possible in order to, provide that feedback. Now, the cool thing about it is it's almost like TypeScript. It is to ARM as TypeScript is to JavaScript. And so it's really a transpiler where you write your bicep template and then it transpiles into an ARM template. And so because of that, any skills that you have in ARM today, will come along. So, don't be afraid of trying this out. Maybe take, an ARM template that you already have and try to reauthor it in Bicep, or they even have a conversion utility to go from ARM to Bicep and then Bicep to ARM. So anyway, kick the tires on this thing. It's pretty cool. We may try it out here. Maybe not this stream, but one of the streams they're coming up. All right, so that's kind of where we were. Is we have that mobile app. We've got the function on my local machine. Now we need to start doing something to get this thing published out into Azure. So if you're not familiar with Azure, the very first thing you need to do is have what's called a subscription. And so, if you haven't used Azure before, you can come out. Let's go to, if you search for Azure, you can probably go to, I think it's just azure.com/free. Azure, if I can type, /free. It should take you to this page here. Yep. So come out here, click the Start Free button. It'll ask you for, credit card information. We won't bill you, unless you say, yep, I want to go above the $200 free credit that you get for the 30 days. But we need to have some sort of credit card on file. Part of it is just to do a identity check, make sure, you are who you say you are. But anyway, you go out, swipe your credit card, get your $200 credit. It's good for 30 days. And then there's a ton of services that are actually free forever. So things like Cosmos Database, Azure Functions. You could kind of scroll through here and take a look at all the different free services out here, blob storage. So as we're building the social media platform, I'm going to be taking advantage of as much of this as possible because I don't want to have to pay for anything that, is just kind of just sitting there or whatever. This is all coming out of, my hard-earned money. And so we're going to use as much of this free stuff as possible. The cool thing about that is they are all, cloud native type services, which is a completely different approach to what the likes of Parler did, where they build on supposedly bare metal. So this is going to help us from a cost perspective, but it's also going to help us from just an effort perspective where, I don't want to have to manage servers and patch them and do all this other stuff. I don't want to think about that. I just want to write my code, get it published out, and have something that works. So we'll be taking advantage of all that stuff. Now, I've already set up a subscription. I've already used the free trial a long time ago. So I created a new subscription here against my credit card. And so as soon as we start deploying stuff, if it's not a free service or it runs above those free tiers, then we're going to start seeing its current cost tick up. All right, so with that, let us kind of take a tour through here. So subscription is the first thing you need, and basically the subscription is the billing account and also a security sandbox, right? And this is the largest bucket of things or the largest bucket that you can deploy Azure resources into. The next level down is called a resource group, and it's very aptly named. It is a group of resources that all share the same lifecycle. So in this case here, I created this OpenEthos dev resource group, which is where we're going to start putting some of these resources. So let's get started here. And for the sake of just getting this stuff out there and getting stuff working, we'll do some work through the portal today. But I'll show you a little trick that I like to do in order to kind of jumpstart some of our work on the ARM template side. No, I don't want sticky keys. All right, so I'm in my resource group here. Click add, and what I want to do is create a function app. We'll put it in the subscription streaming in our resource group, OpenEthos dev. We'll call this Twitch OpenEthos dev profile API. We're just going to do code as our runtime. We are .NET Core 3.1, and then we'll put this in East US. All right, so let me go back here. Grab this. I like to create my storage accounts here with a let's just do this. Twitch dev. Okay. Actually, we can just call this. We'll share this. So can I fit that in there? Perfect. Twitch, OpenEthos, dev, API, storage. So I like to create storage accounts for my function apps that sort of, line up with the name. I'm weird like that. I like my names to kind of all line up. The reason we need the storage account is when we publish our code out, it actually uses this storage account as sort of the staging area for where the code will land. And then the function app will read the code from the share in the storage account and then run it. So that's why we need this. So we'll create a new storage account here. We're gonna operating system, Windows, Linux. Do Linux, that's fine. And then the plan type. So we want to do consumption because we want that pay per execution, right? If we go with one of these other tiers here, like premium or app service plan, then that's going to be charging my credit card regardless of whether or not any of you are, making requests against that function API. So we want the serverless, which will give us 1 million free executions and not be billing us 24/7 if it's not being used. All right, so on to the monitoring. Enable application insights, yes. Create a new one here. So we'll call this Twitch OpenEthos dev. So we'll have all of our resources going into this application insights workspace. That's fine. And then we'll also create a log analytics workspace here. I'm going to call this Insights. So Application Insights is a application performance management service that you can instrument your code. It'll pick up metrics, exceptions, stuff like that. And what's cool about it is, you almost don't even have to think about it for Java and .NET. It just kind of runs behind the scenes. But if you have other programming languages right now, like Node, you can actually add the library into your code and then, instrument it. You can also do that in Java and .NET as well if you want to get really granular with your instrumentation, as well as sending custom metrics and stuff like that. You can go ahead and add that in. Now, Application Insights used to be a standalone resource, and what the team recently did was they allowed you to link it to a log analytics workspace. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, you might ask, first of all, what's log analytics? And why would I want to do this? So log analytics is another service that allows you to throw logs at it. So within Azure, you can actually enable from the platform level, we can send logs in. So every time anybody does anything in Azure, there's a activity log that gets generated. So when I click submit to create all this stuff, there's going to be an activity log that goes out and says, yep, Ryan started this and then it completed successfully and all that. So it's basically like an audit trail. Now, a lot of the services, I'd say the majority of them, also have diagnostic capabilities. So, for example, like storage accounts and the function app, you can turn on diagnostics to send additional below your application. So the actual platform service, you can have it send logs and metrics to a log analytics workspace. If we were doing virtual machines, let's say there's part of this that we can't handle via a platform service, and we want to write some code that will run on a virtual machine, then we could actually have that virtual machine send logs to this log analytics workspace. Same thing with containers and so on and so forth. So what's nice about this is if we link our APM service, Application Insights, to the same service that we're sending all of our other logs, then if we need to really start digging into things and figure out exactly what's going on, we'll have all of our logs in one location, and we can run queries across both infrastructure as well as the application. So we'll go ahead and do that. I did. Okay, must be a bug here. So we'll say okay. Tags, we're not going to get into tagging right now. You can do it. You can do it. All right. So if I click create, it will actually go out and start building all this for us. Now, what I like to do, because we are going to eventually create ARM templates for all this, I'm going to snag this. So I don't know if you saw, I clicked that download template for automation. So all those steps that we just went through, Azure basically built up this ARM template for us behind the scenes. And so what I want to do is capture this and let's see where we are here. Go. try to clean up some of these additional branches out here. All right. So let's switch to a new branch. Infrastructure as code. How's that? All right. And we'll fire up code. Now, one of the other things I did while I was cleaning up is I updated the app icon for the mobile apps just to give it something other than the default Xamarin icon. I'm not a designer, so I just threw something out there. If you are a designer and you want to take a stab at designing an icon for the app, then I would love that. That'd be awesome. All right, so I'm gonna create a new file. Azure deploy JSON. Get rid of this. We'll just dump this in here. And then I'll create another new file. We'll call this parameters dev.json. So if we look at this, you'll see up top here, we've got all these parameters, which are the values that get passed in at the time of deployment. And then you'll see the parameters referenced down here. So we got parameter name for our function app website, the location, et cetera, et cetera. So what you want to do is you'll typically have a parameters file per environment. So imagine we did dev test prod. We'd have parameters dev, parameters test, parameters prod, and as we're moving up the stack, we can deploy the same template. We would just use a different parameter file based on what environment we're going into. So Azure grabbed all that for us over here as well. I don't know why they need to put my subscription ID in here, but it's out there now. Oh well, doesn't matter. Okay, so we got all that. All right, so go ahead and click create. This will just take a second. So this will take a minute. While this is going, let me show you what else I did here. So last time I used the Visor app to do my screen mirroring from my phone to the stream, and it was super low quality. So in order to get the high quality, you have to basically pay for the app. It was $40, so I just went ahead and did it. So I've got that now. We can switch between our scenes here. And so everything I do here, we get super high quality, and I have it set up as a different scene here within OBS. So it's really nice just to be able to switch back and forth and be able to have all that stuff working. So thought that was pretty cool. All right, looks like our stuff deployed. So we switch back to our resource group. We've got all of our stuff out here. So we've got our app service plan, which is the actual compute under the hood that will host and run our function app. We've got our application insights for sending all of our application telemetry and metrics to. got our log analytics workspace, and our function app, and then the storage account for where the code gets deployed for the function app. What got deployed out here? This default. I don't know why that got created. It's interesting. All right. So go ahead and check this bad boy off. We created our function app in Azure. That is done. It's been modified. Sure. That was because I switched branches and pulled down the latest. So we should see all of our stuff out here. We've got our function app. We've got all of the mobile stuff. So we've got our shared runtime for Xamarin, and then we've got our Android and iOS applications. And then we've got our shared here. So we've got the models for that profile API. And then we've got our activity streams models that I pulled in. All right, so let's turn our attention to this. Set this as startup. So we'll run it real quick and see what we have, and I'll show you what we're doing here. All right, here it is. So if we grab this and create our new file, just do a get foo. So this is using that REST API extension in Visual Studio Code, which is amazing. I could execute this thing. And so if you recall, for now, this was hard coded. All right, so if we look at the code here, we're looking specifically for this ID. So if this mock ID equals the ID from the route, then we're going to return just this mocked up profile object. Otherwise, we return not found. And so that's exactly why we got this 404 not found. Now, if we change this to this and then execute this again, we'll get the actual result. All right, so let's stop this and let's actually publish this thing out. So we're gonna right click. And I know what you're all thinking. Friends don't let friends right click publish, but we're gonna do it for now. And then I promise we'll get like GitHub Actions or something set up to do our deployment here. All right, so yes, Azure is the target. Function app Linux. We're gonna do OpenEthos dev. This is our target that we wanna publish into. By default, it's going to do a release, but because this is dev, I want to do debug. Yeah, we'll do framework dependent, portable. Perfect. Configure. Yep. Okay. Should have checked this, but close that. Oh, why did I don't want this function? Get rid of this. What's What's this? We don't want this. What's this doing in here? We don't want that either. Okay. All right, so got that. Let's go ahead and publish this. Unsupported. Don't know why that is unsupported. Okay. Profiles. All right, so let's go ahead and publish this. All right. So I'm just going to do a quick build and then basically zip all this stuff up and then publish it out. Oh boy. Of course. Zip deployment failed. Why did it do that? Publishing again as if that's gonna fix things. No. All right. Let's take a look at what we have going on here. Yeah, super not helpful. Okay. All right, let's try. Try deleting this stuff. Try doing it again. So we're gonna save. Rebuild. All right. Let's try publishing. We're gonna choose Azure. Linux. I did choose Linux over here, right? Linux. Should have already had all that configuration. If we look in here, it should have already had our web. Yeah, so it's got that. It's got our connection strings and all that. .NET. To build during deployment, correct. Okay. It's choking on these service dependencies. Let's see what we can do here. Just try publishing this. if this doesn't work, then I might be tempted to delete that service plan and try Windows service plan. Publish exceeded. Okay, it was something with the service dependencies. Okay. All right, so if we come here to functions, this will just take a second, but we'll see our function pop up in here. At least we should. There it is. Get profile. So I just want to grab function URL. Come back here. We're going to try hitting that from here. Oh. Wrong shortcut. Address not found. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, of course. So that's exactly what we'd expect, not found. And then if we grab this, switch back, and plug that in instead of foo, then we should get our... Yep, so we get our profile back. Cool. So that is working. We'll leave that up here just in case we need it. All right. Step 2 or task 2 complete. Got our function published. All right. So yeah, we'll leave that. All right, so the next thing we need to do is update our mobile app to call that, that function. So we're using a library called Refit, and it makes calling APIs extremely easy. You basically just model out your get, post, delete, put as an attribute the path that you want to send the request into, and then give it a method, and then you have to match any parameters up here with parameters down here. You can also pass in things like headers and stuff like that. So we could do, you know, like header, and then give it a name. I think you have to, header name. So if we did like, X header foo, that, and then whatever value was here in foo would be the value that gets passed in. Now we're not doing that in this case, but that may be useful somewhere else. So we'll just keep that in mind. But what we do need to do is switch back to our, where we're initializing this thing, which should be here. We're creating a an instance of it. And so this is that the ngrok endpoint that I had out there. And in this case, what we want is basically this is our base URL. So now we're switching from ngrok, which was doing a reverse proxy into my local machine, out. We're changing that to point directly to the Azure function. So that should work there. The other thing we need to do is, because we have, if we look at this function, so this is an HTTP triggered function. So we actually have the authorization level set to function here, which means you can't just call the root, the URL directly. You actually, if we look at this here, it actually has this code parameter that needs to be passed here. So this actually is a valid use case for what I was just talking about with this refit thing. So we can actually, I think it's header. Yeah, I think you hard code it, and no. We don't want header. We want parameter. Query. There we go. Query. Delimiter. String. What we got here? I've never used this. Let's read the docs. GitHub refit. Okay. Query. API, dynamic query string. Yeah, let's see what we got here. My params query. Group list, my params, my query params. I see. Okay. Query. You know what I feel like doing? Because this is going to be temporary, because we're going to place API management in front of the Azure function, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. So I'm going to actually cheat here. We're just going to do this, and then we'll go back and pull this out. All right, so we'll just do this. I know this is bad form, but it's going to save us from doing a lot of unnecessary work. And like I said, this will become a non-issue from the standpoint of the mobile application anyway. So, you know, we'll just do it this way. All right, so this should be good. We updated the base URI, and we've added the code for the function in there, so we can theoretically get this Android app to start. And so I actually dug around my desk drawer and I pulled out, I had an old Samsung Galaxy that we're gonna use. So that way I'm not using my actual device and mirroring that. So switch over to that while we're waiting for this thing to fire up. I know who's out there. Looks like I'm streaming to nobody, maybe myself. If you're out there, I'd really appreciate you jumping into the chat just so I can know I'm not streaming to myself. Okay, deploying and debugging. All right, with any luck. Cool. So there's the app, nothing fancy. But if I click this now, it should go out. Hey there, Herky. No worries. Glad you're out there. Hopefully this is of interest and useful. As we're going along, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Or if you have any thoughts or suggestions, definitely, let me know. All right, so anyway, it looks like this is working. So the mobile app is now calling out to the function return, because we have our profile ID kind of hard-coded in there. So that's awesome. So let's now think about introducing API management. So we got this mobile app modified done to call the function app. So now mobile to cloud communications. And so let's now consider API management. So I'm going to switch back to Azure here. And within our resource group, we're going to search for API management. We'll create one of these. Resource name. Let me go back. What did I call these other ones? Twitch. Okay, snag this. And we'll put this in East US as well. So that's one thing you definitely need to be aware of is as you're creating resources in Azure, really any cloud, you want to make sure that you're placing them in the same region. Now, not all resources are available in every single region, so you might have to pick and choose here and there, but most services are available in every region. So, you pay for egress costs if you're going from, if let's say I chose EastUS and EastUS2 for this. So if I put API management in EastUS2, so my mobile app will be calling in the API management, which would then be sending traffic out of EastUS2 to EastUS, and then EastUS will be sending traffic back to EastUS2. So we're kind of getting a double hit there with egress. So that's one thing to always make sure that you're doing is deploying into the same region for all your services that are kind of snapping together as part of your overall solution. So we'll call this PIM. So we'll just call this administrator email. You guys are all going to be spamming me now. Oh no, I got, set this up. All right, so API management, it kind of serves a couple different purposes. One is as, that proxy that you can place in front of APIs to do a lot of the offloading. You could do like SSL offloading or authentication like we talked about earlier. But you can also use it as a monetization vehicle, right? So let's say you developed a really awesome API and you wanted to actually sell it to other developers. You could, choose one of these tiers here. Now, as a developer, this gets you basically like all the features, but no SLA. So that way you can kick the tires and understand the full capabilities of API management. But within like basic, I think it's basic, but definitely standard and premium, you actually get a developer portal that API management will host on your behalf, and other developers can come and sign up for it. And then they get basically like, a subscription, and they can start using your API. So it's a way for, if you work for, a company, or you're a developer in a garage coming up with an awesome API idea, you could use one of these tiers to create a developer portal and stand up, an API platform to get some money. Now, in this case, I'm using API management just as sort of like an aggregation of all these different APIs that we'll be developing. And so I don't intend on ever having, an API developer portal. And because I want to keep costs to a minimum, I'm going to go with consumption. So this consumption tier is, again, just like Azure Functions, where it's a pay per execution. And it comes with, a certain allotment of free API executions per month. So, this is going to help me keep costs low. Now, it's true in both Azure Functions and API management and a lot of these other services that are consumption based, where you get a free allotment every month. There does come a time, a tipping point, where it actually becomes more costly to remain in the consumption space versus just paying for the full-blown service. So that's something that I'll have to keep an eye on. But anyway, as we're starting out, this should be good. So I'm going to choose consumption tier. We're going to turn on monitoring, and we're going to use our app insights that we created earlier. Scale units are not supported because, again, it's consumption, and it sort of, it scales elastically to meet demand as more requests are coming in. Manage identity, we're going to leave off for right now, but this is a really nice feature of Azure where services themselves can actually get an identity in order to authenticate into other services. So we'll probably make use of that when we get into Azure Functions, where we want to, save and retrieve values to and from blob. Then we can use the manage identity from Azure Functions to authenticate into the storage account. And that avoids the whole mess of having to deal with, access keys and keeping those things secret, and really just alleviates a lot of the pain of managing access into, different services. So virtual network is not supported in consumption. We're going to turn on HTTP2, and we're going to leave TLS 1.0, 1.1 off. And hey, Scott, good to see you, sir. Hope you had an excellent rest of your week and a good weekend. We're going to leave all these back-end transports off. And we'll go ahead and create this instance of API management. Now, if you create the consumption tier version of API management is relatively quick in terms of creating. If you go with one of the standard or developer premium tiers, it takes a little while to get that thing created. So, if you go down that path, don't freak out. It does take about, I'd say about 20 to 30 minutes to stand that instance up. All right, so I'm gonna snag this template again real quick before we do our deployment, because I don't want to have to start from scratch. All right, so I'm just gonna grab the variables and there we go. So non-consumption, you can kill all these. Networks, we don't need that. We need all this though. Service. Yeah, so we need this. We'll spend some time going through ARM templates when, we change our focus to actually kind of get all this in order to automate our infrastructure deployment. But if you've never worked with ARM templates before, they're just absolutely extremely powerful. I happen to love them. This is one of my favorite features of, Azure. AWS, GCP, they have similar capabilities, but in my experience, the ARM language and everything you can do in ARM is a little bit more powerful than what you can do with CloudFormation and the GCP equivalent. So the basic anatomy of an ARM template is you've got parameters, which are values that are passed in from the end user. You've got variables for mashing things up and then reusing them multiple places down within the actual body of the template. You've got your resources. So these are all the things that you want Azure to deploy. So in this case here, we've got a web app for our function app. We've got our server farm, which is the logical compute that hosts our function app. Our application insights resource, the storage account, and then what's this? This is the linking deployment. Yeah, this created our log analytics workspace. And then now we've added in our API management service. So we'll keep building this thing out. You can probably see over here. So this, I'm using an extension in code. It's the Azure Resource. I think it's this one, Azure Resource Manager ARM tools. So this gives you IntelliSense and the syntax highlighting. You can see there's a ton of red out here, and that's just because, you know, I don't have any of these parameters defined, and that's fine because we're gonna be very surgical when we come back to revisit all this stuff. So we'll get very surgical here and clean all this stuff up and get rid of all these squigglies. But for now, I just want to, you know, capture this so that we don't have to start from scratch. All right, so let's get out of here and we'll create this thing. It's funny, I'm actually working on something at work right now where I'm literally doing almost exactly what we're doing here. So this is really good timing to be able to pull all this stuff together. But I'm helping you know, customer stand up API management in front of either a web API, a .NET web API, API backend, or we may do functions as the backend API. And yeah, so almost verbatim what we're doing here. All right, this may take a second. So let's call this done. We're gonna actually need to connect Azure API Management to Function app. Okay, so that deployment completed. Yeah, Sky, that's a really, really good question. When to use a function app versus a web app. The kind of where, I mean, there's pros and cons, right? So one, if you're going to have constant load and you know that the thing's going to be requested all the time, you know, it may make sense to go down a web API path and host it just in a regular, you know, app service or something like that. The other thing that I would consider, just keep in the back of your mind, is right now, .NET functions, actually, I think all the functions, the runtime itself, it doesn't provide a really great way for you to add in cross-cutting concerns. So in the example of, and probably what we're going to end up doing here is, I don't want these functions to be, you know, exposed and able to be called by anybody on the internet. And so that's why we're putting the API management in front. But what we're going to want to do is add some sort of authentication mechanism between API management and the function app. And so the easiest way to do that is do some sort of like maybe mutual TLS certificate. So it's like, you know, client certificate authentication from API management to the function app. So when we go to do that in the function app itself, we'll have to have some sort of logic to say, hey, we're going to validate that the certificate that was sent in the request aligns to the certificate that we're expecting, the thumbprint matches, it's a valid date range and all that. You know, function apps aren't going to be great at that because you're going to want that to occur on every single API. So, you know, it may make sense eventually to turn all of our APIs into a web API where we can add in, you know, like middleware in the pipeline to do that validation and not have to remember in every single HTTP function to add the logic to validate the, you know, first of all, validate the model, validate the certificate, et cetera, et cetera. But again, you know, I'm being cheap right now, and I don't want to pay for this. So that's kind of why I'm going down the path right now in with this experiment with the APIs being function apps, where it's pay per execution and all that. But, you know, having said that, functions are awesome for reactive programming. So imagine, you know, I don't know if you've used Cosmos in your job yet, or just for fun, but you can write a record in the Cosmos, and then it's got this change feed, which then can spit events out on the back end, and then you can essentially react to those. So functions are awesome for that, because you can set up, you can program in a very event-like fashion where you're responding to things taking place, instead of having to, you know, push that and make the call from one API into another. You can just do the thing and then have the functions react to the event happening. And so that's where I think functions really shine. I think I still like, you know, doing web API for, you know, straight up APIs, but like I said, I'm being cheap here, so we're just going to roll with it. All right, so we've got our API instance here. We've got our function app here. So let us jump into here and start defining some of this stuff. All right, so we are going to import function app. So this is really nice. This integration is amazing. You can go out and just say, hey, I want this function app. It automatically discovers all the API, the HTTP triggered functions. It understands the URL template format over here. So we can select this. We're gonna shorten this down. We'll call this the profile API. And yep, we'll prefix it with profile. Let's version this thing. So we may actually want you know, different versions. So I like for the path query. I like that. Kind of go back between headers and let's do headers. That keeps things cleaner. So what this will allow us to do is conceivably we can host multiple versions behind the scenes, and then based on this header, API management will decide, oh, I see API version is 2021-01-24, so I'm going to send it over here. And then if it's a different version, it would, you know, send it elsewhere. So this allows us to, you know, roll things out. Now, it obviously makes our, you know, development a little bit more difficult, because we have to have versions of the APIs that would, you know, support multiple versions and the whole data thing and all that. But, you know, we're professionals. We can deal with that. Get rid of this. All right, so let's create this. Sweet. So you see here, it created our profile API. We've got our version, and then for all operations, if we look at, should have should work. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so it knows that this operation is pointed to this backend right here, which it's being set right here in this this process. So this is really nice. This shows you the pipeline as it's coming in. So, you know, front end, this is what's gonna happen here. And then actually we can just edit this. Oh, how do I get back to that? Can edit this policy. And the policy applies at each of these different scopes here. So this is a scope, this is a scope here, this is a scope, and then this is an outgoing scope. And it's layered, so you can go at the individual operation level. It can go all operations for an API, or you can even do all APIs. So you just need to layer these things together, and you can get really granular in applying these different policies, and you can do all kinds of really awesome stuff with these policies. But let's just try hitting this and validating this works. So let's grab our hard-coded ID here, put it in here, and send this, and boom. So we've got our API management communicating with the backend API. This is effectively done. So let's now update our mobile app to hit the API management instance. So we're gonna switch back here. So instead of going directly to the function app, we're going to put in our API management. And then we're going to go here. So instead of API, this now becomes profile, right? Let me just double check that. So we got that as our base, and then we've got profile, and then the ID. So profile, user ID, we don't need this code anymore. So let's start this up and see what we get. All right, so let's hit get profile, and hopefully we get our response back. Oh, 404. Okay. All right, what the heck happened? Just try. Oh boy. Oh, you know what? I bet this is because I don't have my API version header in here. What was it, 24? Access denied, subscription key. All right. So for now, design. Settings. Let's not require a subscription key. Okay. Boom. All right. So that means I need to figure out how to get these headers working over here. Herky or Scott, have either of you used refit before and used headers? Static headers. Yeah, okay. This should be easy enough. You manually added? Okay. Looks like we can do this. So we can say API version equals 2021 01 24. Let's see if that works. That's actually a good test. We'll need to make sure that we're doing proper error handling with refit. Make sure we're catching any non-success HTTP codes and dealing with those appropriately. With any luck, there it is. All right. So we got that working, which is awesome. We are cruising through this thing. Now, this is going to be the fun part. Doing the B2C and adding the authentication, Azure API Management. This is one of those things where you kind of do it once and you just set it and forget it. So we're going to be spelunking through the docs here and figuring out how we can get this stuff set up. Now, I do know what we need to add in here is the Microsoft Authentication Library, or MSAL. So Azure AD B2C is based on Azure Active Directory, which is, a modern authentication system based on things like OAuth and OpenID Connect, those kind of protocols, like web protocols. And B2C is the consumer version of that. So if you work for a company that has, Office 365, or you're using Azure, then you've got Azure AD proper. But if you were writing an application and you want end consumers to come in and be able to sign up accounts, you could even use social media accounts. So you could have like sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google, Microsoft. We can even do Apple ID. B2C is the service to use, and then it acts as basically like a secure token service, which will authenticate on the social identity provider, validate the identity is correct there, and then your application and your APIs have a trust relationship with the B2C tenant, and so it'll authenticate the IDP, translate that into a token that your APIs and your app understand. And then that's how you do all the authentication that way. So the Microsoft Authentication Library is the thing that makes all of this super easy for us. So we're going to want to add this into all the mobile All right. So the reason we have to add it into all three of these projects is because there is iOS and Android specific things that we have to do in order to get this all working. So our shared project gets it. Why is this? There we go. So the shared project gets it because we can have some shared logic there, but then there's device specific logic that we have to add in order to make all this work. The way that the authentication works. So if you think back on, if you're using different applications on your phone, a lot of them will do the browser pop-up. And that's to basically provide some sort of secure broker between the application and the end service where you're entering your credentials and the mobile app never sees them. So all the credentials are added on the identity service side, and then it just validates that, hey, credentials are correct. And then boom, you end up with your token in the app that you can then use to call the APIs. But the mobile app never sees username and password. And so that's the logic that needs to be implemented in Android and iOS. The authentication library, Microsoft Authentication Library for Azure AD, B2C, and all that makes it really easy. I just need to look up the docs to figure out. There's a couple little code snippets we need to add to make this work. All right, so Azure AD B2C Xamarin. Let's just see what we get here. Great. This looks like a winner. Create your own web API. We have that. We have our app. Yep. So this is what we need to do here. So we need to create a MSAL activity. And yeah, we'll need to create our B2C tenant, all that fun stuff. And then iOS specific. Yep. Okay. So we got our library in. Let's just go ahead and create the B2C tenant. This is a little weird how you have to do it. So you have to search for Azure Active Directory B2C. You have to create a new one. And I'll call Ethos. Doesn't like the dash. No. Okay. Cool. And again, you can see here, free, we get 50,000 free monthly active users, which is awesome. Again, I don't have to pay for a thing. We're going to place this here. That looks perfect. I don't know that we get automation options here. Yeah, it's just a create thing. Subscription is not used. How to register subscriptions. Okay, so you need to come back. Where's the resource providers? Active, not registered. Why can't I register this? I'm the owner. Oh, there we go. Helps if you pay attention. So this is another peek kind of into the internals of Azure. So the way everything is organized is into these resource providers. So you can think of resource providers as basically like namespaces in your code where you kind of organize everything in the namespaces. And so what we do is we organize services in Azure into API namespaces. And so, you know, you'll see like storage in here, compute, web, and all that stuff. And that's just a, you know, nice way of organizing things. And then we base the role-based access control and Azure policy and a lot of other things off of the services, you know, organized into these different namespaces. Now, the interesting thing is the first time you use a resource within these namespaces, you have to register the namespace. Depending on how you do it, the namespace itself will get automatically registered under the hood if you've got the correct permissions. But sometimes you have to come in and register it manually. I think that, did I go through the directory? Not registered. Let's give it a spin. I don't believe it. Type C. Let me call this Twitch OEDEV. Sweet. All right, so that's going. All right, this will take a minute or two. So let us, while this is going, switch back here and create our API, create your policies. Yep. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, identity work is really tedious and painful. But the good news is this is like literally a set and forget kind of thing where you set it up and you get it working and that's it. All right. So why don't we see if we can get started with getting at least the Android application set up. So we needed to add in a new activity. And we're just going to follow quick start MSAL activity. Yeah, we'll need to get our client ID here. All right, so let's snag this and flip back over. We'll place this. And it has to be a browser tab activity. Might have to pull that in. All right. Now what we have to do is we'll need to create 2 applications in this directory once it gets created. So one application will be the actual client, so our mobile app that we would be using, and then the other application will be the API. And then we'll have to expose an API and a scope on the API. And then in our client app, we'll say, hey, I want to authenticate against this directory for this application. These are the scopes that I want, and B2C will make it all work. And MSAL when we get it all hooked up. So, all right, we got that. Now what we need to do is we need to link that tenant to our subscription. And of course it's not going to find it. Let me just do a hard refresh here. Did it automatically do that? That would be amazing if it did. Oh, look at that. That's awesome. So this didn't used to happen. When you created a B2C tenant, you had to create it separately and then link it into the subscription that you want to use it in. But in this case, it did that automatically, which is fabulous. Love this. All right. So this just jumped us out to the B2C tenant here. So I should be able to come in here. Yeah, don't ever delete this, this app here. This is pre-created and it's used for storing extension properties of users in the tenant. All right, so let's create a new application. And we'll call this API. We want accounts in any identity provider organization. Accounts in any identity provider organization directory. Yes, it is a web. Grant, yep. All right, and then we're gonna create another new mobile app. This is, this will automatically populate for us, I believe. It's been a while since I played around. Allow public add platform. So here's what we need to do. We'll add Android. We need our package name. Oh yeah, we need to grab all this. This is a nightmare. Generating a development signature hash. This will change for each development environment. Okay, so we'll just do this for right now. I don't think I have OpenSSL. Let's see. I do. Sweet. Is that it? Must be base 64 encoded SHA-1. I hate all this fun stuff. All right, you know what I might do is we may save this for the next stream, so that way you all don't have to watch me struggle through this unless you want to, and then we can, I'm happy to stay on and do that. But let's get our other app created here. So cancel out of here for now. So we created our mobile app and we've created our API app. So let's expose our API. So we're in the API app here. We're going to come down here to expose an API. We're going to set the app ID. We'll call this API. And then we're going to add a scope here, which call it profile. So this becomes our full scope that we'll request. So profile, admin consent. And then now what we need to do is switch back to the mobile app. And we need to say the mobile app requests access to my APIs. So as we start building additional APIs out, we will expose them as scopes, and we'll have to ensure we come out here and update the mobile app to be able to request those particular scopes. So this is saying the mobile app can access or request access for the profile API scope. And I need to consent. So we're going to consent. And only administrators can do that. All right, so this part of it is complete. Now I can grab this application client ID, and we can come back here to this MSAL activity and drop client ID in here. Boom. So that's good. Let's clean up some of this. Let's see here. And I have to have OpenEthos. Yeah. Try just doing this from a command prompt. Looks better. No. I go, always forget. Add a platform, that's right. Ah, that looks good. So I think this was, yeah, just generic. All right. MSAL configuration. What is this? Yeah, we need to create a policy. Okay. All right. So we got our mobile app configured. We have the API exposed, scope set up. So let's go back here. What we need to do is create a user flow. Now, actually, identity providers, local account. Yeah. See, there's some of this here I don't necessarily want to do on a stream because it can't remember exactly, but I'm sure there's some sort of sensitive information that, Scott, I don't want you to get your hands on because I don't know you. You're just some dude on the internet. All right, so we'll do a local account for now. I think that's fine. So we need to set up a flow here. Sign sign up and sign in. Yep. Yeah, I'm not gonna crack that open, sir. Sorry. Yeah, we're gonna do this. This is the next generation. Sure. SIG, sign in, sign up. Yeah, let's make that all lowercase. Sign in. MFA method. Email, that's fine. Yep. Conditional access. Of course. See, I think I don't want that actually. All right, so we're gonna get given surname, display name. What else? Do user's object ID. We probably want that. Want identity provider. Email addresses. Okay. I think I want MFA. Doesn't look like you have an option. All right. So let's just run it. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, access tokens. Scopes. Sure. Yep. So we're gonna just test this out real quick. So this is actually a really handy part of the interface here, where once you set up this flow, we can click this run user flow here, and it'll work, except the fact that we don't have. Let me go back here. So let's add in a app ID here. Always get this redirect URI. We're gonna add web. Enter. I think I did that right. So this jot.ms, if you've ever done identity work before, you're probably familiar with jot.io, where you can grab your access token, dump it in here, and it'll decode it and show you all the stuff here. Now, Microsoft has one. It's jot.ms, and it does something very similar. However, what's really cool about this is within B2C, come down here to user flows, come back in here. If we click run user flow here, if we set up the jot.ms reply URL, it'll actually go through the whole process, and it'll show our access token out there. and it'll decode it and do all this stuff. So super useful. Let's see if this works. So RG streaming. Wait a minute. There should be a sign up, right? Isn't that what I did here? Yeah, we want that. Sign in, sign up. Sign in with your email address. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, it's not gonna. There should be a sign up button here. Maybe I didn't set that up correctly. Email sign in. Got our local account. It's the identity provider. Okay, let's start over. Delete. This is good. We'll get practice. Okay, sign up and sign in. Versions. This is the generally available production. Recommended. Sign up, sign in. Yep. We did this before, I thought. So, email address. Object return claim. Collect attribute. Yeah. Want to know if it's a new user or not. It's good. Okay. Let's try this. Create. Run user flow. Mobile app. Our access token will be the API. We've got all of our scopes here. All right. Let's see if this works. Yeah, here we go. Here's our sign up. So RG streaming. Send verification code. All right. I'm going to do this down over here where you can see that. Verify code. That worked. Can create. Probably need a longer password. Boom. Sweet. So that all worked. It's coming through. Awesome. So the next thing will be how much time we have left. It's 5. Go for a little bit longer. Let's just see if we can get this working in the mobile app. We'll call it a day. And then we'll pick up next time. Maybe I'll do it offline, and then we'll just recap getting it hooked into API management. I'll just recap that next time. All right, so the way that I like to do this is I'll create a authentication service here. So and then create all right. So let's just be really, really cheap with this thing. So we're going to expose access token. And then we're going to have a login async method and ask log out async. All right, so let's implement this thing. All right, so this is where we may need to cheat a little bit. We switch back to the docs. What was that? Oh, I think yep. All right. Could just go to we just went here. Now you all know my work email. 97. All right, so that was Active Directory B2C. Yeah. I can promise you, Scott, if you send them to me, you're not going to get help. All right. Here's that Xamarin native one. Yeah. All right, let's just check out this Xamarin native. I think it might be named incorrectly. Let's just take a look. Yeah, this is not. This should be Xamarin Forms, maybe. This is a Xamarin Forms app, right? Yeah. All right, let's see what we have in here. API endpoint. Yep. Probably have their. Oh, they actually broke it out into. Sweet. So if we go. Yeah, yep. All right, this is what we want. So we're gonna drop this in here. Why is this on? Let's make these async. Oh, I lost my brace up here. Like, what is going on? Saw lots of red. So I'm just going to hard code this for now, but it certainly would be wise to extract that out into different constants, because as we think about deploying this and getting automation in place, so things like App Center, what we can do is we can store secrets in App Center, and then prior to the build, run a script, go out and maybe in like that constants class, find and replace some placeholders with the actual values from the secrets stored in App Center, do our build, and then spit out, a signed APK or app bundle on iOS. And that will allow us to have, maybe like a beta app or alpha app separate from a production app. So that's kind of the goal where we want to get to. All right, so let me go back and just snag these app IDs real quick. And that was here. We don't need this for now because we're not doing iOS just yet. Okay. Sign in, sign up. Let's search for this over here. Is there a constants class? Log on. Constants. Just want to see what that looks like. Authority base. Host name. Sign in, sign up. Yep. So I think if I just want to cheat for right now and just see if we can get this working. Go to our user flows. It should be this this URL up here. I think that's right. Oh, maybe not. That's the configuration. What is that for? With authority. No. Okay. So we know. I'm just going to hard code that. Authority, sign in, sign up. All right. We're just going to cheat. So I'm going to snag all of this. Oh, look at what we have right here. That's what we need. That. And then we just need to grab our this. This is the name of our policy. That should be it. So we create that. So we need to assign this to that. And then down here, I think it's public client, acquire token. So I think the proper way is to try to do it silent. And if it fails silent because you don't have a cached token with a refresh token on the device, then catch that exception and do the acquire token interactive. Because we just want to get this thing working, let's just try this. All right, so we're going to say new string. All right, and so what I need to do is grab if we look at this, this will have our scopes in it actually. Scopes. At least it should. It just has OpenID. All right, so let's go back. Expose an API. So we need to just copy this. Put that in here. All right, so we need OpenID this, and let's do offline access, which will get us a refresh token. I think that's it. We might need profile as well. All right. Run flow. OpenID profile. Yeah. What is this? Okay. There we go. All right. So bar, is this returned? Oh, this is just a builder. We need to actually execute. So this will now, yeah, authentication result. Result equals await, and we get our auth result here, access token. So all right, let's do this. We're gonna say try. We're gonna move this up here. If everything succeeds here, then we're gonna say access token. And we're just gonna return true. Otherwise, here we're gonna return false. All right, this is very brute force-ish. All right, and then down here we need to do something like bar accounts equals public client application get accounts async. Wait, and then for each account in accounts. And then access token equals. This is super ugly. Give it 1 out of 10 stars, would not recommend, but it will achieve what we're trying to do. Yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. I guess I need him to wait here. Yeah, poor request rejected notes. Exactly. All right, and then assuming this all works, so let's do the same thing up here. Is what we did up above. Just return true, and down here we'll return false. All right. So now that we have that, we can get that registered. So we're going to container registry, register instance, application service. We'll say new all right. So that's all good. So let's now add a command out here. We've got our invoke API command. So we'll public async. Call this login command. And we'll do a logout command. Right. Execute. All right, so we got that. Now we just need to login command, get this stuff queued up, log out command. All right. Then we need to add the buttons in our view. All right, so we've got our stack layout, we've got our buttons, and all that. Let's add another one up here. I might get a little ugly. Yeah, we'll do something with this. All right, so we'll say access token. Oh, let's just do this. Let's say is authenticated. All right, and then over here, say private. Right, this just sets up our I notify property change. Let me just make sure I got that right. Yep. Okay. So this sets up our data binding. So down here in our login, we need to get our authentication service. And save that off. All right. So that will work. So now we want to success equals application service login async. And then if success, what I want to do, let's go back over here. So even if we fail here, what I want to do is set access token equal to string empty. Yep. All right, so if success, then device, you can invoke on main thread. Is authenticated equal to authentication service access token. We'll say string is null or empty. And then down here, we're going to do something very similar. I'm going to say log out async, and then that, yeah, that can all stay the same. I just went away to see, are we actually authenticated? This will work. Let's just put a breakpoint here. Let's put it up here. All right. First things first, do we build? That will be the trick. This on air. Why do you do that to me? It's still going though. All right, we'll probably, assuming this works, we'll probably wrap up for today. Question: What days and times work well for you to watch these streams? I'm trying to get into a regular rhythm here. I just don't know what days and times to stream. Of course, it has to align with work schedules and all that, but Just curious. All right, so that worked. Let's try running this bad boy. Gotcha. Cool. How's my audio from the mic? I kind of adjusted the placement of the mic, get it a little bit closer, so hopefully it sounds a little bit better. Perfect. All right, let's switch over to the phone. So we've got our log in, log out buttons, and false for is authenticated. So click login, breakpoint hits. Let's run past that. No, that didn't work. Did we actually? Yeah, we implemented. Yeah, let's get rid of this. All right, let's see what we got in here. Turkey, you still out there? Just curious what days and times work well for you. You are. All right. So, exception. What do we got here? Specify current activity from which the browser pop-up will be displayed using with parent activity. Yeah, so we're missing something here on the Xamarin side. Let's do this. Let's take a look through this repo real quick. Let's go down to the Xamarin, the Android one. I see what we were missing. So we still need some of this stuff here. All right. Cross, yeah. Android, yep. And I'm assuming this is really nice. I don't know when this happened, but GitHub added basically like go to definition, go to references for all the different code. So it's almost as good as being in Visual Studio, right-clicking on a type and saying, go to instance, find all references. It's amazing. So I want to find where this is being used. Yeah, it's pretty recent. It may have happened like over the holidays maybe, but this is super nice because there have been instances where I'll download a repo and fire it up in Visual Studio just to click, find all references or go to definition. So this is really, really handy. So let's see where this is. Okay. Authentication service. So gotcha. That's the missing piece here. This is gonna eventually get a little bit more involved. Let's see if we can do this real quick. Let's see. We'll maybe call it quits. 5:40. Let's see if we can get this done in 10 minutes. All right. So in our MSAL service, instead of doing this build, we need to do builder. What they're doing. And then down here, we'll say builder build, and that creates that. So I think what we need to do is I think we can do this. Is it idiom? No. Is it platform maybe? Runtime platform. Yeah, it's a string. It's a way to runtime platform. No. Basically, I want to say like if it OS. I think we can just say this equals Android. And then what we're going to do is builder. That was parent activity or window. That's right. Okay. So we need to add in a service here. We'll just do exactly what they did over here. This is the downside of this is selecting is kind of difficult. All right, and yeah. Is that returning object? All right, so here's where it gets interesting because this window locator service will be different on Android versus iOS. We need to add this thing in to, oh, we've already got platform initializer here. That's awesome. So what we can do here is we need to basically, when the life cycle of this app starts up, it can call out into different platform specific things. And one of those things will be to register a type specific for Android or iOS or whatever. And so you implement this platform initializer in here using Prism. And now we can implement that, and we get our registered types down here, which will pass in our container registry, and we can register platform. Nope, sorry. What do we call that thing? Parent window. Instead of just typing in, copy and paste instead of typing. And what we need to do so we're going to add a class. Let's call this Android implement this. All right. All right, and then there's this packet. If we look in the implementation here, so we've got this cross current activity, yada yada. That's a package that we can implement or pull in. I forget what it's called. Cross core, I think. Let me just cheat. Packages. Yeah, current activity. Yep. All right, we're running out of time. Let's just keep going and see if we can get this working. All right. So we are putting this here. Instead of bundle, this becomes, say, instance state. All right, so we got that. We're just gonna copy pasta. Just gonna return this. And then we just need to resolve this, copy this here. And then if we jump back to main activity, we need to say, this is the thing we want to register against this interface. And then we also need to pull this in here. We'll call this parent window locator service. And we don't need to save that off, but we do need to do this. That should work, right? Oh. Okay. Wow, we almost did it. Okay, we're gonna keep going. We're almost there. Authentication continuation helper. We need this. This is what helps the Microsoft Authentication Library actually do the authentication. I think this is built into MSAL. Yeah. All right. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if we got it. I'm going to build this thing up. We're going to switch back over to the phone. Hopefully there's no exceptions anywhere. There's no argument. Yeah. So I need to do container registry. Register instance. What are our other options here? I think I can just do this. Register singleton. I think this will work. So we don't necessarily need a specific instance. We just need it to say, hey, we want a singleton for this every single, like we only want a single instance, and then it'll construct this for us and it'll inject that, the parent window locator service. So that should work, I think. Well, it's building. So nothing immediately silly is stopping us, which is good. All right. We still have our breakpoint over here. Yep. Let's go with that. Come on. It doesn't like something. Oh boy. What do we got going on here? All right, let's see real quick. Let's see what we get. Right here. Let's see if this is actually doing anything in here. This may be the end of the road for today. Hot reload is connected. Oh boy, it doesn't like this. I'm wondering. All right, let's make sure this is getting executed. Yeah, this isn't getting executed. Let me see something. Oh, I remember. This always catches me, trips me up. So in our main activity here, when we're loading our new application here, we step back. So this is the thing that we're newing up there. And if we're just doing the default constructor, then it's calling this other constructor, passing in null as the platform initializer. In this case, this main activity here is the platform initializer, so we need to do this, and that will in turn make sure that this gets called, and that should light everything up. Yeah, wake up at 2:30 and you'll all be clear. Yep. I've certainly had that happen before. I think this is it right here. Should work. Should work. Please hit this. Boom. That'll work. This is running now. Our runtime platform is Android, so this should work. We've got our app. All right, so now hopefully log in. We're gonna do this. Skip. Not now. Not now. Oh man. No thanks. It's not working. What's going on here? I don't have redirect URI mismatch. I don't know why it's trying to go to that. All right. I think this is a good place to call quits. I'm going to go ahead and debug this and then get it all working. This thing, identity stuff, is very twitchy. You got to get everything lined up just right. So I'll go ahead and get this squared away. Let's jump over here to task list. So I'm going to get auth in mobile app working. So I'll do that offline. And I might also do this, connect the API Management B2C offline. So that way, that stuff can just be ready to go for the next time we meet up. And then after that, what do we want to do? Start getting the app flow together, maybe. So what I mean by that is, authenticate, sign up, authenticate on first run, maybe like the tutorial, and then land on main page. Let's maybe get a profile page in app set up. And then that will, so we'll need a Cosmos DB and hook up to Profile API. So I think that's it. For next time, like I said, I'll get the auth working, ready to go, so that way we can jump in and really start rolling up our sleeves and getting some meat here. So with that, Scott, good seeing you, sir. Herky, glad you could make it. I don't know if you're still out there, but happy to have you here. If you haven't already, I would appreciate a subscription. And then also, I'm moving all my videos over to YouTube as well. So if you ever happen to miss one and it's past the time that Twitch maintains the videos, they'll be over there. And it's just my same username over on YouTube. So feel free to subscribe and ding the bell and all that fun stuff. So with that, have a good evening and glad to see you here. Take care.